So
All
make
right.
sure everybody hit continue. Let yourself.
And now we're streaming to the group.
Is it not streaming?
Well, it says it says subject does not have permission to create live streams in this group. Interesting. And it's I'm Everett, so maybe he got banned again.
Probably. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so it says share to a group, share to the podcast. No such luck. We'll have to post it later.
No streaming for you.
Nope. I'll have to let Everett know he got banned again, probably.
That's funny.
Well, at least we're recording, which is a good thing. So, but anyway, welcome to the podcast, everyone. I have the two most intelligent hosts anybody could have that keeps me on track and says, hey, Corey, you're not recording. They say behind every good man is a good woman. I got two of them, so keeps me straight. So welcome to the Flameless podcast, Sunday edition. We're doing a special Father's Day today. Eric Butler's joining us. I think Eric's got a couple of family members in the audience that might join us a little bit later in the podcast. So, but just a little bit of promo a little bit of promo for the site is if you guys like us on Facebook, that really helps us out. So go to our Facebook group, join our group, like us. Also, we post a lot of these that we're doing recordings on. We post them raw to our YouTube channel. So go find us on YouTube, subscribe to our channel, hit the subscribe button, and then hit the little bell, and that will give you alerts when we upload new videos. And so that really helps us out and promotes the show. So, but tonight we'd like to welcome Eric Butler to the show, to the hot seat. We like to say the hot seat, but we don't want him to feel like he's in the hot seat.
I'm already nervous enough.
I'd like to also welcome Monica and Terry and have them introduce themselves.
I'm Monica. I don't think you need more than that.
I'm Terry.
And we're Terry, and we're all here to welcome Eric to the show. So anyway, so today's Father's Day, right? So first of all, happy Father's Day, Eric.
Thank you.
How many kids you have?
I have 3 kids. Austin, he's actually online here. And then I have a son, he's 26, Austin, and then 2 daughters, Haley and Taylor. They are 24 and 22.
Excellent. Empty nester.
Yes, I am. Besides a couple cats.
Cats.
Cats, don't let him lie to you.
A couple of cats.
That's a couple.
Hey, cats are good. I don't mind cats.
He really only has 2 cats.
No, he really
I only
does.
have 2. Terry always says 50. 2 or 50.
2 or 50. 50 is a big problem.
I thought 2 was big enough of a problem.
It's like all of a sudden we're losing viewership.
I'm a crazy cat person, apparently.
Well, great. So I take it you're single.
I'm single. Yes, I'm divorced. Divorced about 2 years ago, a little over 2 years ago, after a 26-year marriage. So yes, I've enjoyed things like this, the Flameless Fireside podcast, just to get to know other LDS people, LDS singles.
Excellent, excellent. So what groups are you members of? Are you on the Facebook groups?
Yeah, I'm a member of the LDS 35 and Wiser, Terry. I'm in the 3 M's, meet, mingle, and anyway, I'm mostly on the 35 and Wiser group. There's a lot of people there, right? So it's been a great opportunity to meet a lot of people nationwide. And then I'm on that with with COVID having shut down everything in 2020, I got to be a part of like the LDS roaming singles. And so I've done a lot of activities that way, just traveling anywhere, as well as I've done Boise Bash as well.
Oh, excellent, excellent. So have you had any luck?
Luck with what?
Don't be coy. Come on. I'll
So
have to stick Monica and Terry on you. Interrogation time.
yeah,
Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
honestly, so
We're ready.
I started dating way too early for me. And I think it was a Nick Perkins thing that I had heard, that he said, don't date until, for every month that you'd been married, don't date for every year, don't date for a month, right? So that'd be 26 months or so. So I'm about ready, right? According to that. But I wasn't ready as far as when I started right after a divorce. I started dating, and I think I sabotaged most anything potential out there just because I just wasn't ready. And I think we all know, after, well, for me, 26 years, I wasn't in the mindset to have healed myself and to have worked on myself. And so, yeah, so I've gone to a lot of events, and mostly just to meet different people and gain friends. I think if I'm out there looking for that special someone you're talking about, it's difficult to enjoy those type of settings versus, I went to a couple like that and I came away disappointed. But then when I started going to just enjoying myself, meet people, have fun. So like Rock the Dock this weekend, it's water skiing, it's whitewater rafting, it's zip lining. Those kind of things for me. I'm an adventure guy. So that is kind of up my alley. And if I find someone, I want it just to be organic, if that makes sense. And that's pretty hard in Iowa though, right?
What? I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
The Midwest?
I don't
The
think
desert
it's
of
as hard.
singles? Never. Just kidding.
I don't think it's as hard as you think it is, because we have so many different social outlets now that, I mean, yeah, a lot of the stuff is online, but you can meet some people from polo groups, from Facebook groups, from, just a wide range of events, that kind of thing. I mean, you're well on your way of doing that. So I personally don't think meeting somebody organically is far-fetched. Just saying.
Once you get used to kind of the online format, it can be much more organic than I think people expect. But it's just about finding the right combination of ways of communicating and things that help it to feel that way. It's nice now with like all of the video, ways that we have to communicate, including like synchronous and asynchronous communication, which I think is really interesting. Like we've never had video asynchronous communication before until like Marco Polo and stuff. And so there are ways that you can get a much better sense of people and develop friendships, and it can feel more organic than maybe you would have thought.
Yeah, and there's always like Boise Bash and things like that are always happening that people can go to. And it's even away from, the church sponsored events, that just makes it so much easier for people to come together and meet, so.
Well, we will see, I guess.
Yeah, I think, I mean, a lot of the groups spawn off like to other groups. There's like, especially if you're in activities. So look for like, even just post something in any of the groups that says, hey, who's interested in running? Who's in my area that's interested in running, or who's interested in meeting up to go do a race or something somewhere, and just figure out who might have some group, or create your own LDS running group or something. And LDS Singles
That should be
running.
Terry's group. I just take tips. I'm really not a runner.
In fact, that should be an awesome group. Think about it. Like LDS runners, LDS Singles running. Like people wouldn't know what that means. Does it mean that you are running from being single, or you're
That's pretty funny.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm up for running for running a group like
Catch
that.
me if you can, or, that'd be a good one.
Yeah.
You could set up like an adventure group, Eric, right?
But
Because you're an
there's
adventure guy.
And really,
Yeah.
that's what that roaming singles group has kind of been, as far as like, hey, we're going camping in Indiana this weekend. Who wants to go? And I've signed up for that. We've gone camping. We went down the Wabash River canoeing, things like that. That's the dirtiest river I've ever been in my life, actually. But anyway.
See, like up here, we do like whitewater rafting, we do all this stuff, and you just pay like a small fee and you get together and you can carpool or whatever. I mean, there's always these options to meet people besides the grocery store, just saying.
Oh, absolutely. And I've traveled a ton of different places, and I'll continue to do so, just because, again, I'm at home alone, I'm bored. And so I've gotten involved in this podcast, for example. I'm a lot better in the peanut gallery, making the chat comments and trying to joke around than I am being on the show. And that's why I hesitated. But yeah, I've met some really, really awesome people doing this, though.
Yeah. What are some activities that you enjoy doing away from work and home life?
Well, so I am training for a marathon this fall, and I can't say that I am really enjoying it. I guess so. My girls, Taylor specifically, signed up for a marathon, and so I'm not a very good sideline cheerleader of a dad. I've got to be involved, right? And so guess who else signed up? So I'm doing that. So my dad got me into being interested in paramotoring. And so I'm working on that this summer, as far as getting training for that, and then buying my own setup there as well. And if you don't know what paramotoring is, Everett usually looks up something and throws it online, right? But it's basically, you have a fan strapped to your back, and you have this big, like, kite wing, this huge kite wing above you, and you're flying. And getting into that. I'm
with the big fan behind you.
Yes.
See,
So,
I'm looking it up right now.
I'm confused though. Isn't Iowa a little flat? Just asking.
well, no, but you can, yeah, yep.
There
So
we go.
Tucker Gott is probably the face of paramotoring, but yeah, very much into doing something like that. This is the cheap way, the redneck version of being a pilot, right? So yeah, I'm looking at doing that this summer and fall. So yeah, I do a lot of different activities, hiking and kayaking. Those are things I enjoy doing outside of work. Just about anything outdoors. I am a big Buckeye fan, and so I want to go to some college games this fall as well. So trying to keep the plate full as far as activities.
So are the rumors true? You actually want to chase a tornado someday?
Yes, I do. I want to do that with my brother. My younger brother and I, we have always wanted to go and chase tornadoes. How'd you know?
I don't know. It's so weird. It just popped into my head.
Oh, yeah. Definitely want to chase a tornado with my brother. We always talk about how close we would get, but
is your brother named Kevin? Just ask.
His name Kevin.
Interesting. Okay.
Is he throwing me under the bus? I've kept the chat off purposely so I'm not like distracted.
Okay, just carry on. You're good.
So yes, I would love to chase a tornado. I'm insured.
I think like watching, do you guys remember the movie Twister?
Yeah, that terrified me for years.
I was like, I want that to be my job. Like I watched that movie and I was gung ho. I was ready to go. I was like, let's do it.
There's a reason why I have not visited you yet, because of tornadoes.
But see, I'm supposed to be part of Tornado Alley on the edges at least. And we've had some probably 30 or 40 miles away from where I'm at, but nothing around me for 20, 23 years. So I'm kind of disappointed in this area a little bit as far as tornadoes go.
Yeah, you probably have.
No tornadoes.
I hear, I don't know, according to Twister, they have a lot of them there.
Every once in a while, we get a tornado in Chicago, and the tornado sirens sound like aliens landing or something, because it's a different sort of siren, and they test it the first Tuesday of every month, which then you expect it. But like when you don't expect it, it's like the weirdest. It's eerie. It's like an eerie siren.
Yeah. I think the first tornado after I was 8 and I was in Minneapolis. That's probably why I don't like them to this day.
I was in a tornado in Cincinnati, Ohio when I was a kid. I was outside playing when the sirens went off, and my grandma couldn't hear us banging on the door, so we just hunkered down on the porch. Luckily, it didn't go down our street, but it had the famous sound of a train going by.
Yeah.
Mm.
And then I've been several earthquakes in California and Mexico City. And I was in a hurricane during my mission. I was in Hurricane Jerry when I was in Galveston, Texas, when it landed in 1989. So I was in the middle of it. Like, we couldn't leave the island because there was like a bridge that gets you off of the Galveston Island. And yep, they said, sorry, the bridge is shut down, hunker down. And so like the 4 of us missionaries went to the apartment that had the brick, because we were in an apartment that was a wood apartment. So they were like, no, guys, go to the brick building. And we hunkered down and got to see the eye of the storm, because like we thought the storm ended, and we went outside and we're like, wow, it's so calm and peaceful. And then the second part came in, we ran back inside. So pretty fun.
That's funny.
That's cool.
I never chose a tornado.
I was in Hurricane Sandy in Boston, and that was the closest I came to that. And actually, I thought it was pretty exciting.
Yeah.
In a hotel.
Besides tornado chasing, I hear you like to climb mountains as well.
Yeah, I do. Actually, I am game for anyone that wants to hike a new mountain. For me, my son and I, we summited on the Grand Teton. It was in my backyard growing up, right in Southeast Idaho, and so we did climb that mountain to the top, Os and I, and enjoy that very much. Hiking up to, I'd like to do is it Whitney in California? That's the highest in the continental 48.
Mhm.
Yep.
So yeah, so I have a bucket list, and I knocked through these things, a marathon and climbing the Grand, a few things like that. So I work on things like that for, I guess, things to do outside of work.
That's awesome. So speaking of Father's Day, then I take it you've done some of these bucket lists with your sons.
Yes,
So which-
I did. Go ahead.
No, which ones?
Climbing the Grand. We summited. It was his 16th birthday, so he's 26 now. So it was a decade ago this summer.
Nice. Yeah, those are always good memories. I remember going, taking my son to Yosemite. So that was fun to hike that and be outdoors. Yeah, experience those types of things. It was fun.
Have you
So
done it?
I think, I was gonna say Mount Whitney's just the tallest in the lower 48. Is that right?
Yep.
It's what, 4.5 or 14.5?
I thought it was, yeah, I thought it was closer to 15, but yeah, somewhere in there.
Okay.
But the thing is you got to go to California to climb it, right?
What's wrong with that? California's not too bad.
I'm from Idaho.
Although, that's cool. I've done 5 14ers in Colorado. So I love, there's nothing quite like climbing mountains that are at a certain elevation for sure.
Have you done any of the volcanoes like Mount St. Helens, Mount Rainier, Mount Hood, Mount Adams? Any of
I
those?
haven't. No, and I haven't hiked a lot of mountains. It's just to me that was they have to, I want them to be meaningful. So like the Grand was in my backyard as something significant to me. Mount Whitney is the tallest in the lower 48. So it's like, it's a measurement stick, if you will. So for me, I want it to be like a challenge and meaningful, and just not just like a random mountain, if possible.
If you wanted
you do-
to, oh, go ahead.
If you do Mount Hood though, when you get to the summit, I mean, your survival rate kind of goes down a little. There's that.
You could always do Mount Elbert in Colorado, because that's the second tallest in the lower 48. And it's only like, I think it's only like 50 or 45, something like that. 55, I don't know. It's only like between like 40 and 60 feet lower than Mount Whitney.
Now my son is up in Alaska, and I believe he took a plane ride or a helicopter tour over, is it McKinley?
Denali? Yeah, Denali.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that one, I think that's the tallest in all of the United States,
in
right?
all of North America.
North America.
Yeah, yeah.
See,
It
something
used to
like
be
that would be-
McKinley, but they changed the name back to the indigenous name, Denali.
Denali, okay.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's how I got my dog's name. That was my dad's favorite mountain.
Hmm.
He used to
That's
go,
awesome.
and he finally got a picture of it without all the clouds and perfect sun. So I was like, okay.
Oh, that's awesome.
That's
Mhm.
cool.
That's a good that's a good Father's Day story, Terry. That was awesome. I like it.
That's
Like
cool.
I threw that in there.
That's really good.
He never
So,
climbed it.
Eric, what do you do for what do you do to train for these things?
So I'm not a very good exerciser to exercise. My little sister now, she can just exercise to exercise. I'm inspired by people like that. For me, I have to sign up for an event. And so for the Grand, you know, I did a lot of hiking and running, mostly just trying to get my weight down a little bit that way. Riding bikes and running is probably my two ways of staying active in the summer, at least, to get ready for something like that. So mostly cardio.
That's good. Any special diets you like to stay on?
Anything that does not include apple cider vinegar. So,
You have to tell, you can't bring that up and not tell the story, Eric. You have to tell the
Okay.
story now.
I'm
So I've been
innocent.
running-
I'm innocent.
if anyone knows Terry Wilson, she is the runner, and she runs a lot every day. And so I asked her, I've been having problems. So I ran a marathon about 10 years ago. And so a lot of things have changed, I'm finding out. And I am coughing a lot in between like mile 1 and 2.5. And it's just like my throat is closing on me. And so I asked her, what will help that? And she's like, take a shot of apple cider vinegar. And I'm like, okay. So I end up taking a shot.
Wait. In my defense, you did say, are you joking? And I came back with a straight face and said, absolutely not. Why would I lie to you?
Right?
I don't understand why that's defense. Why is that a defense?
That's a
Terry?
horrible defense, Terry. So anyway, I took a shot of that, and after, I mean, it really took me about 2 minutes to kind of quit having that face. It was
It was
horrible.
all on polo.
Vinegar dries your throat out too. So I went out on this run and I just had cotton throat, cotton mouth. I was just horrible.
Oh man.
I made it through that run and then came back and kind of told Terry that didn't work. And she's like, I figured it wouldn't, something like that. So, but she has told me, so I have quit dairy as of this week. And my sister, Chris, actually, has told me all these things before, but I quit dairy this week to try to help, and that actually has helped me. So so far, but it's going to be a long summer without ice cream, because I am a sucker for ice cream.
Do you
No,
have
hey, like I
allergies
said-
at all, Eric?
No, I'm tougher than barbed wire and twice as sharp. That's what my dad always said. I believed it.
You never know though, because it can develop at any point, right? Like different allergies to plants can develop at any point. I know that affects me when I run. Anyway,
No,
Corey was going to say something and I interrupted.
Oh, no, I was gonna say that I like ice cream too, but I get I go to Whole Foods and I think some stores are carrying it now, but they're making ice cream out of oat milk. And it's pretty creamy and has like the same texture as dairy. And you should try it. They even sell like oat milk in cartons, and at least it's not dairy. It's
So
ice cream to ice cream.
I quit eating dairy last year and I never looked back. And at first I did do those alternative ones, you know, just to kind of, because I wanted something cool. And then it just got to the point where I was like, I don't really want this. And so I haven't touched it. And it's been amazing for me, but I know everybody's different. I also don't do apple cider vinegar shots either. So, so I don't know about that.
I quit that myself.
That's good.
Apparently, Eric's brother has already benefited from his new diet because he got to take home gallons of milk.
Yeah. So Terry tells me this the day after I went shopping, 2 gallons of white milk, half gallon of chocolate milk. And then I already had a half gallon of chocolate milk and a half a gallon of white milk in my fridge. So yeah, my brother and his family were able to benefit.
But it does increase your time. I'm not gonna lie there. I'm really telling you the truth. It will increase your time. If you run for time, it will increase. Increase, not
Decrease?
Increase.
Decrease.
It will make me go slower?
No, sorry, it will decrease. Sorry. You'll get faster.
Okay, I can deal with that. If I'm getting slower and skipping ice cream, we have a problem.
I'm still thinking about that look on your face when you did the apple cider. It was priceless.
Poor guy. Oh my gosh.
I'll find it for the after party and I'll show everybody.
There's a lesson, right? And like, don't listen to Terry. I'm just kidding.
Yes.
I'm picking up on that.
That's so funny.
So I hear you eat really hot peppers. Is that true?
I need to check the chat out because yeah, there's some. So growing up, when I was newly married and we were pretty broke. I was going through college and working third shift, and so I would someone at work brought in. I was working third shift while I was going to school. Someone brought in some peppers and was claiming how hot they were. And I'm not a spicy guy by any means, but I said, it can't be that big of a deal. You're making such a big deal out of this. And so they challenged me. I couldn't do it. I'm like, well, why would I do something like that? What's in it for me? So they said they'd pay me $5 if I had to eat this pepper. And so I ate it, and it was actually pretty pathetic. And so it
like
made
the pepper was pathetic, or you were pathetic? I'm wondering, like, what?
The
Be
pepper
specific.
was pathetic.
Okay.
It was not hot. It was so oversold. It wasn't funny. But I use that for like laundry money. And so this guy kept coming in with these different peppers for me to try, and it finally got up to the habaneros. And by that time, it started. You know, I have some pride in me, right? So I can't admit that it's hot. So I would drink the milk and eat some bread before and after, and not let them know, but it progressed up to these peppers. And so that's where that was. My brother, he does make the hottest burger in the world. I truly believe that. He takes, I think, 3 of the 17 peppers, but they're all 3 of the hottest peppers in the world. And he makes this glaze in a burger that we have burger night. And the last time we had it, I think we're done with that, just because the last time we had it, yeah, we had nosebleeds. We had a guy, well, we had 2 people vomiting on my lawn. So it was pretty serious. So yeah, and the missionaries, only one missionary could make it. So
So what's the hottest pepper you've eaten? Scorpion?
Kevin would tell me. I don't know the names of them. I know there's a Caribbean red habanero, but he does make the scorpions. He grows them. I don't eat them. I can afford laundry now, so I don't.
Carolina Reaper is the hottest pepper right now in the world.
Yep.
So
Carolina Reaper.
So I have a friend, I have a coworker of mine. He was with me out of Mexico, and this guy can eat peppers like nobody's business. Like he takes the scorpions, takes a hand, like about 4 or 5 in a hand, and just eats them like popcorn. And he actually smokes the competition at the Buffalo Wild Wings. So he eats the hottest one there, the ghost pepper wings. He eats all 12, and he's broken the record. He's eaten it in under 4 minutes. And and he licks his fingers at the end. He's just, the guy could eat some hot stuff, but he did have a brother who also raises peppers, like grows and cultivates peppers. He cultivated the Carolina Reaper and sent it to him in Mexico City. And he ate one, and he said his eardrums burnt. It actually almost knocked him down. I mean, this is a guy who can eat ghost peppers, and he ate a Carolina Reaper, and it hit him hard. It didn't knock him out, but he told us, he's like, yeah, that was hot.
Yeah, my brother.
Why it's
The
called a
hottest thing
Reaper.
I've ever had in my life is my brother's Cry Twice burger, and it's aptly named. It's legit the Cry Twice burger, because
So the ghost pepper I know is pretty hot. So is the Reaper hotter than the ghost pepper?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Ghost
it
pepper,
is.
scorpion pepper is hotter than ghost, I think.
Ah,
And then the Carolina Reaper is above that. So correct me if I'm wrong, you pepper lovers out there.
No, I think that's right.
Yeah, it's
I
pretty,
don't have a
it's
split
pretty hot.
screen, so I can't look it up.
I remember one time I was cooking with habaneros, and my ex came home and immediately started coughing when he walked in the door, just from like it being in the air.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, there's some peppers, just being around them will burn your eyes and burn you just being in the actual area. So
Mhm.
My
But,
son,
yeah.
he was 9, and we were living in California at the time, and we we're going through this farmer's market, and this guy's like hands him his habanero and is like, I will pay you if you eat all of this. And he's like, okay, how much? And he's like, I'll pay you $5. And I was like, you're crazy, $5? I wouldn't do for $5.
That's like not enough, right?
Yeah. And he's like, I'll give you 20. And my son just would eat jalapenos, like no big deal. Well, he ends up eating the whole pepper, and he walks away like he just owns the place. But I did not realize he was in so much pain after eating that habanero that he kind of started lightly sprinting to the car. He just starts pouring water in his mouth, and the guy had actually handed me $100 bill to give to him. And so he was like, he just kept saying, this is so worth $100. He's crying, and it's just so funny.
Oh my goodness. Well, and water's like doesn't even help because it just
No.
moves the oil around.
Yeah, it just makes it worse. But he was desperate. That was the only thing he had.
Wow.
I have passed that trait on to my son as far as the stories of me eating things for money. My son has taken that to a whole new level as far as like the grubs and the worms and the flies and lots of different things like that. I don't think he's really a spicy person, but I don't think he's turned down a challenge like that. So
is there a story to like the worms in particular?
Yeah, well, we were camping one time, and of course it just comes up. It's like, ooh, this is gross. And it was one of my friends, of course, Ryan Knighting. He just had mentioned, hey, I'll give you. I can't remember how much it was. I think it's something really. I think it's $5 for an earthworm, and I didn't think Austin would take it, but yeah, you put a bunch of rules down that he has to keep it in his mouth and chew it up and everything like that, and show his mouth clean afterwards, and he'll get $5. But yeah, it's typically around the campfire or something like that. We've had these grubs and worms and things like that for Austin. So that was just a camping event that we had.
Oh man.
I can imagine. I know like in some baseball stadiums, they'll like serve like crickets and like grasshoppers and stuff. Like here for the Mariners, they serve grasshoppers. And it is the most disgusting thing I think I've ever seen. Like they're deep fried. They're like, how do you want your grasshoppers? You want them extra crispy? You want them, really? This isn't something.
They're not too bad. They make them in Mexico too. They take the legs and antennas off and they fry them in like lime and stuff like that. So they're not too bad.
They're crunchy, right?
I've had crickets
Yeah,
down in
they're crunchy.
Mexico.
No, these are like
one
full
thing.
body. There's nothing taken off the grasshopper. It's still.
Oh, I've
jumping.
had those too. I don't like the ones with the legs and the antennas.
Yeah.
Traveling the world, I've been able to eat a lot of different things that has surprised myself even, but I've always made a rule wherever I'm at, I'll eat whatever they eat. If they're eating it, it's got to be okay, right?
You always have to try stuff.
Yeah.
Right? And like I've seen places, I want to say like mostly in Asia, where they have like huge spiders, beetles, starfish, scorpions, like on sticks, and they just like sell them at street vendors and stuff to eat, you know? And I'm like,
No.
all right.
Yeah, I don't
Although
eat
I
street food.
The scariest thing I've ever seen though is actually my brother taking a whole scorpion into his mouth while it was alive and then letting it crawl back out. And I was like,
Ugh,
how?
no.
Like,
Yeah,
why?
I don't eat things on the street. No street vendor food, but I do eat.
No.
I do like to try things. I did eat in Mexico. I did eat what they call Aztec caviar, which is basically ant eggs. So they were nice and warm, cooked, and put in a tortilla with some hot sauce, and it was pretty good. A little salty, but pretty good.
Weird.
I've heard that bugs are the diet of the future, so we might as well just get used to eating.
I heard that too. Like between the
Yeah.
environmentalists and the animal rights people, they're like, bugs, eat bugs.
They're
Now
gonna be
there's
the
a
things that
lot more
survive,
meat.
cockroaches and stuff, right?
That's why you got to move out of cities.
Yep.
Go out to farms and raise your own food.
There you go.
Yeah.
So Eric, a little bird told us that you were in a life-threatening car accident when you were a teen. What
Yeah.
happened? Apparently it just keeps coming up of what a daredevil you are and how many things this has caused to happen in your life. So
I've
what
always
happened?
wanted to be a stunt man growing up. Most people wanted to be like a policeman or a doctor.
You were like
things
Evil
that.
Knievel is like,
Oh, I so wanted to be Evil Knievel, yes. But I was voted most accident prone in my graduating class. And a lot of the accidents I got into, it just happened to be just a freak of timing, right? The car wreck that whomever is talking about. When I was 17, I was traveling home with a buddy from his house to my house. We were going to sign up for class the next day. It was our junior year, and that spring we were going to sign up for our senior classes the next day. And I was driving my little Chevy Love pickup and happened to hit a horse that was out on the road, is on the highway, and there were 3 draft horses. I got the one in the middle, it sounds like. And it
those
took
are
the
big
cab.
horses,
Yeah, they
draft
are.
horses. Yeah.
It took the cab off, and it took me with it. And yeah, I was in the hospital for quite some time, quite some time. And it messed me up pretty good. I think it paralyzed some of my face completely, crossed this eye, fractured my skull, broke my eardrums.
Wow.
I was out of it for 3 or 4 days. But yeah, I worked my way back with my eye. They give you glasses, right? And they have you put a prism on it so it straightens it out just enough to where you can see straight and not get nauseous, but yet make your eye work. And I did some physical therapy or shock treatment with my face to try to keep the the muscles going while the nerves were still trying to reattach, but that didn't, I wish I would have back then taken it more serious, right? Because that's something that people can tell. They don't know what's going on, but people can tell there's something different. And that really stems from that wreck there. So,
Wow.
but and then after that, I was married for 6 months. It was right after my mission, got married, went up skiing at Kelly Canyon and was doing some trick skiing, 360s. And before I trick skied, backflips and 360s. And my friend was really awesome at it. I did some here and there. But anyway, back from my mission, my ex-wife at the time, she wasn't a skier, and she kept hearing all these things about me doing this awesome trick on this jump down at the bottom. And so the last run of the night, they were going to have her out there so she could see me do this. And I did a 360 and landed on my pole, ruptured my spleen. Well, I thought it was just, it knocked the wind out of me. I thought it broke a rib. It was getting worse and worse. And so I had them take me home, and I had someone else drive my car. And as I was going up the steps to my house, I just started throwing up and kind of collapsed. And they drug me into the car and took me to Madison Memorial Hospital. I was going to Rick's College at the time. And they thought I had some internal bleeding. They just didn't know how bad it was. And so they ambulanced me from there to Idaho Falls. And on the way, my arms and legs just started thrashing. I couldn't control them. I told them it was like sand. There's like sand in my hands and feet. And it was really the blood was, just withdrawing from those limbs, extremities, so that they could continue to power the heart and the mind, I guess. And so they cut me open actually right there. So I have this
Like in the ambulance.
really nasty scar on my stomach, across my stomach, where they opened me up right there so that they could get going. And so yeah, that was 6 months into marriage for me. So I still do 360s just without poles.
Was that, so somebody mentioned that you were spleenless? Is that the?
No, I'm not
Was that
spleenless. They saved my spleen.
They saved
So,
it. Good
yes,
job, guys.
They were able to net up the spleen. So I'd lost 5 out of 8 pints of blood internally. And I was only in the hospital on that one for a week. But yeah, that one was a scary one, I think, just because internally bleeding and I couldn't tell.
So do you feel
So
like
you're
any
able
of
to-
these, oh, go ahead, Corey.
Oh, no, go ahead.
I was just gonna ask, do you feel like any of these experiences like shaped how you approach and think about life? Or were you just kind of like, this is just part and parcel of like living it and doing it fully the way I want to? Or did you come out of them kind of thinking about things differently at all?
Not then. I think it's a cumulative thing though for me, as far as like I stepped on a nail too that year that I got in the car wreck, and it went up through my foot and I had to have surgery that fall on it. So there were a bunch of these different accidents, things like that. And I found that one during wrestling practice. I'd say for me, I am not the fastest, the smartest. I'm not the most gifted in most anything I do. But usually what happens with me is I keep getting up. And so for me, as far as lesson I've learned is I don't quit. I don't quit. I keep getting up. And so for me, things like that happen, right? And I don't know why. I mean, a horse out in the middle of the road is crazy as far as the chance of that happening is actually really, really low. And we all have our tests, right? But for me, my whole deal was, for me, the lesson I've learned is just to keep getting up.
Yeah, was awesome.
Yeah, well, it
Some
sounds like you're the
incredible stories.
typical. Yeah, it sounds like you have the typical, like, the scars tell the story of your life. Like, you've heard that, right? The scars of your face or the scars on your
Absolutely.
body. And
There
so
is
you've
actually
got like a story for every scar.
I do, actually. I have lots of scars, both physically and Divorce
emotionally.
does that to you too. We all know
For
that, right?
sure. Yeah.
So,
Oh yeah, those are scars that nobody sees. Sometimes
Right.
you wear them in your eyes, and sometimes you wear them in your smile, and people can tell, like, man, that poor guy's been through it. But
Yep, absolutely. So on that, I have lots of scars internally and externally, and you just keep getting up. So
that's good.
there is an awesome Christian song though.
Mhm.
It's called Scars by I Am They, and for me that hits home pretty well. But it talks about the scars and actually the scars that the Savior has and how it represents how his scars represent freedom for us.
That's what I
So
love. Plus,
That's
like, it's
awesome.
one of the things about the Savior scars too that I love is the fact that like they're still there, right? Like after he was resurrected, he still had these wounds. And I think there's like beauty in that in terms of thinking about the ways in which we're shaped by the experiences that we have in such a way that like we wouldn't want to have it any other way, right? Like that there's meaning in the pain that we experience, and that there's like salvation in it. There's ways in which it's, we can be sanctified, and those things can be sanctified for our good. And so I love that like Christ will always have these marks, right?
Right.
Of what he went through.
Yeah, it's like if you see a warrior. It's like if you see a warrior with scars, right? And you're like, man, I wonder what he did to get those scars. Like whose life did he save? What battle did he do? Like, you think about those things, right? Because like Monica said, there's a meaning behind those scars. There's a story behind the scars, and like the Savior's story, he has a story behind his scars, right? And that's the story the whole world should hear about, right? And I think when we see the scars, it reminds us what he did. So
right. And I
very
think,
good.
we singles group, we all have some type of scar or some type of thing that we've had to deal with or go through, challenge. And it can either like make you grow or it can crush you. And I think my external scars, I can deal with those a lot easier than the internal ones, right? And I think for me, those have been the more difficult ones to grow from.
Mhm.
But yeah, there's definitely growth there for that. And I've learned a lot about my myself as well as my family during those times.
Yeah. So that kind of leads us to our topic. Like, so do you feel that all of your experience that you've had, does that make you a unique father for your children? I mean, did your kids learn from a lot of things about a lot of your background? Like, what was it? We might have to bring in your the people in the audience that are your family to kind of tell us what they think. But what do you think this new role you have now, being divorced and still being a father?
I think it's tougher being a single dad. And I can't say that I am great at it. I actually struggle more with it now, and I have grown kids. I struggle with it more now than I did ever when they were growing up and we were married in the home together. So I'm actually very intimidated by this topic. I could talk about my dad all day long about how much I admire him.
Sure.
For me, my life has defined a little bit the way I am as a dad. I like to be active and pursue things, and I've been a very, very active dad with my kids. I don't think my kids would ever say that I never made time for them. Time for me is the way someone shows love. And so I've taken the love language test, and for me, quality time is my top. And that's how I try to show love. And I feel like my kids would say that I'm very involved in their lives. Now I think it's tougher because now they're adults. It's them a little bit choosing how much time that you get with them, because they're young and growing and trying to conquer the world themselves now too. So
That you got divorced, what, 2 years ago? Is that what you were saying?
yes,
So your kids were pretty much out on their own when the
they
divorce
were.
happened.
I was blessed that way, although I still think it's tough on kids no matter what.
Yeah. So you didn't have to juggle visitation or anything like that. So how do the holidays look with your kids grown and now separate? You know, they've got mom, they've got dad. How does that look for holidays and those kind of things?
Like I said, it's kind of tough because they choose where they want to go, and
Mhm.
so
Right.
they've tried to alternate or tried to split time. Our first Christmas, I think, well, no, the past 2 Christmases, we've all got together as a family, the kids and then her and myself, and we've had like a present opening thing. And you know, that can be kind of uncomfortable. It can be actually really tough just because it's awkward, right? But any parent here will say they do whatever it takes for their kid.
Yeah.
So, but we try to alternate some things. I mean, as a dad, I want to make sure that they give their mom as much time as possible, especially Mother's Day, for example. I don't want to be in any way a distraction for them to focus on their mom.
Yeah. And that's fair.
So so you and your wife are in the same town then, right? So it makes it a little easier.
We are. My kids are, you know, spread out. One is an hour and a half south of me. He's working. They're all engineers, by the way. One's an hour and a half south. Austin is. Haley is near Milwaukee, so she's 3 hours east of me. And Taylor, she's still in school, so she has been like 3 hours west of me at Iowa State. So we're kind of the central location. So they still have to travel to come to town. It's a 3-hour trip for the 2 girls. So we're in the same town. And so then that gets to be kind of the, where do they stay and things like that. And, you know, it can be tender and a little painful and hurtful to not be the one, right? So those are things that I'm learning how to deal with and trying to, but it's their choice. It's not like a court order of 50-50 custody, things like that. So I don't know if that's easier or harder, because when they choose, then you kind of get to see where they're at.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, this is for a lot of people, this is, I don't know who's in the audience or who might watch this later on, but this might be, you know, this might be somebody's first Father's Day. And for you, it's your second Father's Day as a
Right.
divorced guy. So that could be rough. Like that's a huge
Oh, absolutely. When you first get divorced, or at least for me, the holidays are the roughest. For me, the 4th of July party that I usually have, dang, I need to say apple cider. No.
It's okay. It's okay.
You know, the holidays that mean so much to you, that are really represent family, those are the ones that are really, really difficult to kind of navigate through and feel, yeah, trying to find what your new
Like your new traditions.
traditions.
Yeah, because it's like
exactly.
those holidays that have really meaningful traditions that you've built up and created as part of having your family, right?
Yep.
Like,
So I've done this 4th of July party for the last 18 years or so, and I was gonna quit it because it's like it means family to me. It absolutely means family to me. And so my brother talked me out of it, and he's like, "This is you, Eric. This is you." And so going to try to carry that on and have it be there, but you know, it's always different. So anyway, those are struggles.
Yeah.
And I applaud all the single people out there that are juggling their kids back and forth between those things. I am here actually to learn as much as I am to give any advice, for sure, because I've made a ton of mistakes through this process in the 2 years even.
Well, that's good. I mean, I know how tough it was too. I've been divorced now. I think this December will be, I'm trying to think here, 6 years, maybe 7 years. So, but I remember the first time too, my first Christmas, I went to go visit the boys. I was in Mexico. I flew to Utah where they were staying, and they were older, home from their mission, going to college, but their mom made it difficult for all of us to get together. She made plans on intentional plans. And so I'm staying in a hotel, and we're gathering around the tree in the lobby at the Courtyard Marriott, and kind of like trying to have a little Christmas with my boys. And then they had to run off to their mom's, Christmas. And, it was tough, me sitting in a hotel for Christmas and,
things like that have happened
for like an hour.
Yeah, things like that have happened, but you try to, everyone deals with going through this differently. And so, I mean, Terry's Facebook page, there were some posts up, have been recently, even on Father's Day, and you kind of see that there's some anger being projected through some of those posts. And it's like, some of those posts are only there. It's very easy to provoke like some feelings, right? And so on those, I just, for me, I feel like I understand people are going through different things at different times. I'm past that stage, and I'm assuming good intent, but there's things like that are still out there, and hopefully I learn better how to deal with it in the future, but the holidays are the toughest for sure.
Yeah, I've spent a lot of lonely Christmases by myself, especially living out here in Virginia by myself. Like, I have no family anywhere on the East Coast. Like, all of my family is in the Western United States. So, I've got family in California where I grew up, and then, my boys are in Utah and their mom's in Utah. So it's, sometimes you spend some, Christmases on Facebook or through, video conferencing,
Right. For me, I'll probably travel. If there's not any plans with the kids or something, I'll go on an adventure, so I'm not thinking about it. I at least have that freedom.
It's a good idea.
I'm going to have that work for me. And I do have some amazing family. My parents, as well as my siblings, are incredible. And so I've actually gotten closer with them through the divorce. And so that has been a blessing that I probably wouldn't have realized having stayed married. So there are some positives.
Well, speaking of family, let's bring some of them in. Who would you like to have come in and talk with us first?
So how about you ask my dad? I don't think he'll last too long, just because, he's usually 5 minutes and out. He is an on-time guy. But if there's anyone, actually, Butler, he's my dad.
All right, let's bring him on.
He's my hero. I'll say that. I grew up working for him. He's the toughest boss I've ever had. I worked for him growing up in HVAC, heating, ventilation, air conditioning, and his lighting's bad. But
there you go. It's auto-focusing.
Yeah, I'm here.
How you doing, Levon? Welcome.
I'm doing great. I'm doing great. I'm kind of watching what's going on now. You got to understand, I don't know very much about this electronic stuff. And being able to talk to people and see them and everything, I think that's a marvelous thing.
You're doing so much.
Go ahead.
You're doing so much better than like almost anyone else I've seen who's been like, I don't know anything about this stuff. And here we can see you, we can hear you. It's perfect.
Yeah, but you don't see and hear who's running all this stuff. It's my youngest daughter here. I'll tell you what, I love my grandkids because they can set me straight on all these electronics. And I think that's the greatest thing to have is grandkids. I'm just kind of wondering how come I ain't got any great grandkids. Austin, are you hearing, Grandpa?
I think Austin had to drop off. He ended up He's in Alaska on vacation, Dad.
That's fine. That's fine.
Oh, I think he's
That's
still
okay.
on, actually.
Is he?
He
Oh.
dropped off and then came back on, yeah.
That's okay. Anyway, all I can say about Eric is he's a wonderful son. We've done a few projects out there at his place. I asked him if I could build a trail in his backyard down to the river. And I really didn't know what I was getting myself into when I asked him that, and we're not all the way down to the river with that trail yet, but that's on my bucket list. One of the
Wow.
best things that ever happened is not building the trail, but to be with my boy building the trail, because that has meant more to me than any trail will ever be. So it's just been a lot of fun to work with Eric. Like he said, we worked together in business, and he was like my left hand because he's left-handed. So I do everything on the right side, and he can do everything on the left side. So we work together really, really well.
Oh, that's awesome.
It's just, you know, one thing about Eric, when he does something, he does it right. And I never had to go back and redo his side because I couldn't anyway. Anyway, I just have to say that, boy, if we can get together and get out there and learn how to do that paramotoring, that's going to be a bunch of fun too. And maybe we will.
So he encourages my adventurous side as well.
That's awesome.
My biggest concern about Eric learning to paramotor is he wants to be a Tucker Gott, because he's a daredevil and so's Eric, and I don't want my boy killed on a paramotor. Got to realize old Tucker Gott, he's been doing aviation ever since he was a little baby. Took him he's a great pilot for a paramotor, but he's awful daredevil and doing a lot of stuff that you're not going to see me doing. Let's put it that way. I'm a more of an old and slow type guy. I'm 78 years old and still getting around okay, but I ain't got much else to say. You got any questions?
So Eric, tell me about your dad. Like, tell us about your dad and growing up with him, and you know.
So my first job with him, so he had his own business. My first job with him was when I was 8 years old in Grays Lake, Idaho. We were doing a steak center. And so I was just rolling up cords and sweeping up and stuff like that. And from there, I mean, my dad has taught me a lot. So my parents got active when I was about 2, but they weren't active before in the gospel.
Is your family kind of been members going back, or?
No, my grandma was Catholic, my grandpa was LDS, and they had an agreement with their kids that they would not pressure either faith on them. And so later on in life, my grandpa would make my mom, would make my grandma sign whether, so my mom didn't have permission to go to seminary unless my grandma said it was okay, kind of thing. So
right.
they weren't active until I was about 2. And where I'm going with this as far as so my family is they're not really well, you can tell from me, I got this as far as we're not really eloquent speakers. And we're not really flowery, and we're not ones that you'll see up on the podium giving this great talk. But one thing I can say that I learned the gospel on the job site. And if any of you have worked construction, you know the job site can be pretty foul-mouthed. It can be a different place, right? And that's where I watched my dad live the gospel. And so I know he believes in the gospel by the way he lives and acts, and not by him telling me. So I think to me that's a strength, because you can say anything you want, but you know your actions really speak volumes about how you are as a person. And I think you'll find with my family, they're really salt of the earth type people. And I just happen to be surrounded by really, really great people. What I have learned from my dad, probably my biggest blessing that I feel is that, and I've said he's my hero. He has taught me how to work hard. And then 2, he has taught me not to be scared to try something. And what I mean with that is I fix my own house, my own cars, everything like that. And I learned those things from my dad, not because, mostly because, right, he couldn't afford it. And I couldn't afford it when I was married early on either. But it's a skill. I think it's a blessing, a skill to not be scared to try something. So if I roof my house and I screw up, I can always call those people still. Some people are just scared to try. And so for me, that's been a blessing to be able to not be scared to try.
Yeah.
So
I think
That's
a
pretty
good
awesome.
thing.
So Levon, what is
Yes.
your favorite memory of Eric as a child?
Oh, boy. Eric is a child.
I rolled a car when I was 2 years old.
Yeah, when he was about 2 years old, he got in his grandpa's car, and we lived up on the Butte and Shelley, and his grandpa put it in park, but Eric got in there and somehow got it out of gear, and down the hill it went, and with Eric in it, and nobody driving, just heading down the hill, and we had neighbors' trailers around there, and I knew he was gonna hit one or the other, but he didn't. He made it down through there, ended up in a corral down below in the cow pies. So that was one of the experiences. That was just the first one. That was like 2-year-old. From there on, it just got, I'll put it this way, it was fun having a boy like him because he brought a lot of entertainment into our family.
I'm sure it
You know
kept you
what?
on your toes, right?
I just figured it out. I just figured out why Eric likes cats. He's got 9 lives himself.
Yeah.
That could be true.
I think there was like 9 stories of you almost dying. Like you should have died, but you got 9 lives. I hope you only did 8 of them.
I will say, working on the trail with Dad this last year, I think 3 of them were spent working on that trail last summer. So I'm getting low.
We'll be lucky if Eric survives his trail.
Iowa is not flat where I'm from.
Yeah, he went down the mountain a few times flying. So
Oof.
it's interesting. We're having a lot of fun.
Wow, it's pretty amazing.
Yeah, I believe it. It just makes me think, I'm like, I can imagine something like that happening with a 2-year-old and just being like, well, we're in for it, you know? This is
Yeah.
just
Oh,
the beginning.
I would have lost my mind if that was me. I would have just lost my mind.
On what's that?
Oh, I'm watching my 2-year-old go down the hill in a car.
Yeah, when I got down there, I couldn't catch the car. I'd run as fast as I could, but he was going faster than I was. When I got down there, I opened the door. He's sitting on the foot of, down on the bottom of the seat, playing with a roll of tape. Found other interests on the way down.
Just totally fine, like happy as could be, right?
Yeah, he was riding fine.
Well, thanks,
Favorite.
Levon, for coming
Oh.
on and telling us these great stories.
Yep,
Thanks, Dad.
you bet. Thanks, Eric.
I think Terry was going to ask Eric what one of his favorite memories of his dad was.
Oh, sure.
Yeah,
Stay
he
on
was
for a second, Levon.
Dang. You know, so we used to go hunting down in Malad. And of course, all these people had their nice fancy camp trailers and gear and everything like that. And we had this big old 1971 Ford pickup. And my dad got a trailer. I don't know, was it given to you, or if he bought it, it wasn't for very much. And this trailer was just this really piece of junk. And probably going through that, going hunting every year with him in the fall. But we had this trailer that we gutted ourselves and insulated it and fixed it up and everything like that. And yeah, the time spent with my dad working, I mean, I could tell you dozens and dozens of trips like that. We had an old school bus that was converted into a motorhome that we took a trip up to Glacier National Park and up into Canada, Banff and BC. And those times like that spent as a family to me were incredible. And it was really, my dad can fix anything. And I have 3 kids that are engineers. I'm an engineer. But my dad's probably the greatest engineer I know, and he doesn't have a degree for it, but he knows how to invent things like you would not believe.
And you said that that all of your kids are engineers too, right? Are they all the same engineering or different types of engineering?
No, they're all different types. My son is the same. I started at Rick's College. I went out to Ohio State. But since then, the program at BYUI now has turned into a 4-year degree. And I've actually recruited out there quite a bit for John Deere. And my son is a welding engineer, so that same background. Also working at John Deere in a different location. My daughter, Haley, she is a design engineer, mechanical engineer working for Rockwell Automation. And then Taylor, Tay, she is an industrial engineer, and she is actually on an internship. She's done an internship, 4 different ones, which is great because it's paid for school, right? But this one, actually, she is in her she'll graduate in December, but she's in an internship with Rockwell Automation as well. Haley kind of lined up an opportunity in a different location as well. So all 3, they're much smarter than I am. I just happen to work my way through it. And my kids, they're actually engineering minds, but.
That's awesome. I'm familiar with Rockwell, so.
Oh yeah?
Yeah. I work for McMaster-Carr. I don't know if you knew that.
Oh, I do.
Eric,
and
or
we
not.
use them.
Yeah. So there you go. But LaVon, it looks like you've just generated this family history of engineers.
Well, that's great. That's great.
Awesome.
In fact, I can remember telling Eric when we was working in the sheet metal trade that he needed to be an engineer, not just a common worker like his dad was. And then when he decided he's going to go into being a welding engineer, I didn't understand what that was. I said, yo, you don't want to be a welder. They're all dirty. That's what I know how to do. I know how to weld, and you're just going to come home dirty every day. But being a welding engineer don't mean you're out there with the stinger in your hand welding. Yeah. So anyway, he's turned out that he's got a great family. I got a great family. He got a wonderful family. We got awesome. 2 girls, 2 boys. It was born girl, boy. So we got kind of a good fix on the family with the same amount of girls and same amount of boys.
Is Eric the youngest?
Oh, they're just all wonderful kids. All just wonderful.
I'm second oldest.
You're the second oldest?
Yeah, Chris, then Eric, then Becky, then Kevin.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep. So,
was Eric your toughest kid to raise?
It's what?
No, I wasn't. That's Kevin.
Was Eric your toughest kid to raise?
Actually, probably.
Well,
I should mute Eric.
I left most of the raising up to my wife. I was busy trying to make money to feed them.
Well, but you heard the stories. Come on, don't be on him.
He wasn't that hard to raise. He was kind of accident prone, so he had quite a few accidents, but like I say, he's got this daredevil part of him that I'm a little bit afraid of, that I hope this paramotoring don't get seeing some daredeviling in him.
I kind of feel like everyone keeps saying he's accident prone, but I'm like, well, there's a difference between putting yourself in harm's way on purpose and being accident prone. I feel like Eric's a little bit more in the former of he's a daredevil. He does these dangerous things and stuff happens.
Yeah, but like that accident he had when he was 17 hitting that horse, that wasn't any daredevil part of it there.
Yeah.
It was just a serious thing that horses are one of the hardest things. Horses and moose. A moose is even worse than a horse because
Oh,
it's so
yeah.
legged. They're going to take the top of your car off. They're not going to really, because they're up in the air so high.
Yeah.
But with the horse accident and stuff, it was an accident.
Yeah.
And he had a few accidents like that. And yeah,
But he's got 9 lives apparently. So
he's wore out about 7 of them.
until paramotoring, right? And then
Paramotoring, he's still got that one left.
that's awesome. Thanks so much for coming on, Levon.
Thanks, Dad.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Levon.
Mhm.
And since we were talking about your son, Eric, was Austin planning on getting on and talking tonight too?
He was. I don't know if he's still around because he said, Dad, I can only stick around for about 30 minutes. And I know we're well past 30 minutes.
Oh, he's still logged on. We could ask him to unmute and see if he's here.
Yeah, sure.
But
Hello.
Hey, Aussie.
How's it going?
feel free to turn your camera on too if you want to, Austin, or not, whatever makes you feel comfortable.
I'll see. Things have been a little rough for me. I found out that my service up here in Alaska is not great. So I'll see if it can turn on.
Somehow that doesn't surprise me, considering that you're in Alaska.
Yeah.
Okay, my service is horrible too, and I'm in Washington.
There we
There he
go.
is.
Oh, there we go. Welcome,
going?
Austin. So we just heard like some of Eric's the father-son stories there. What about you?
Mhm.
Like, what are some of your favorite memories of your dad?
I'd probably say, I don't know if there's anything specific, but some of my favorite memories definitely would be us going up to the Boundary Waters in northern Minnesota. We spent a lot of time up there doing canoeing and camping and hiking type stuff. And a lot of that just, I guess, formed a lot of who I think I am today. So I definitely appreciate all of that time just kind of spent in nature with my dad. And that taught me a lot about about who I am, who I want to be, and just a lot of the stuff that I enjoy now. So that's got to be probably like on the top of my list of things that I look back on and appreciate being able to do with my dad growing up.
So cool. I've heard such amazing things about the Boundary Waters, and I've never been, but that's
They're
amazing.
amazing.
You should do it.
So I'm
Definitely.
curious, you don't have to answer this if you don't want to, but when your dad would punish, how would he punish you?
I feel like, I don't know why, but when I was really young, I must have had a potty mouth or something, but I remember getting my mouth washed out with like a bar of soap a lot for some reason.
What was your favorite brand?
Yeah.
I don't know. I just remember like,
Irish
there were a couple
Spring.
times where I knew it was going to happen.
Yeah.
Or if I could get the foam soap instead of like a bar scrubbing on my teeth or something, that'd be great. So I remember that a decent amount, really young. And then as I got
Man.
older and older, it became more of just like, I'm disappointed in you, son. And that was like the worst. So I'd rather just get hit at that point. Because then you just feel really guilty and bad. And it's less of like, wow, you got punished, and more of just like, you're just a piece of crap. So
It definitely
Awesome.
elicits a different response for sure. Like I've had situations with my son lately because I don't really, punish him anymore so much. He's 14.
mm,
There are times where I'll just say, maybe that wasn't the best decision, or well, that kind of disappointing. And it's always, I feel so bad afterwards because he's always like, okay, he just
Yeah.
clearly feels awful about himself.
I guess it
Well,
works.
this
It does
is-
what it's supposed to
Overall
do.
was a really obedient kid. And actually, I think one time I threatened to wash your mouth out with soap, and you went up and did it yourself.
Yep.
That sounds like something my son would do.
Yep,
Really, that's hilarious.
you get to the foam stuff before you get to the bar,
Then
Beat
you
him to it.
win. You're like, I'm gonna choose the
win.
soap
Yep.
that is going into my mouth. I always think of, if you've ever seen A Christmas Story, like there's always that part where he's sitting there with the bar of soap in his mouth, and I'm just like, oh, this brings back memories of my
Oh
childhood.
yeah.
Yeah, was it Life Boy? Was it
Something
Life
like
Boy
that.
soap or something?
Yeah.
Mine was Irish Spring. I could never use Irish Spring the rest of my life. Like it would be on the shelf and I would always avoid to buy it. Would not want to buy it.
Funny.
Still gypped. I never had the soap in the mouth thing.
I had the hot sauce too, but that just built up a tolerance. So now I love hot food.
For me, it only happened like I had a period in the 3rd grade where all of a sudden I just decided that I was going to like swear up the wazoo. I was going to say all the bad words all the time just for kicks. And so it was a brief period of having my mouth washed out on the regular.
I think 2 things, yeah, either a potty mouth or if he back talked his mom. Those were the 2 things that got him that. So
Austin, what is the one thing that your dad was always getting on you for?
Well, the one thing that comes to my mind the most, I got older and I started really getting into video games, and he did not like that habit very much.
Yeah. My son's
Sad to
upstairs
say
right
for
now.
him, I think I won that one. I still definitely, like, if I have time to like sit around, do nothing, I'd much rather play video games than watch TV or watch, you know, a show or Netflix or something. So I don't know if he likes that or not, but now I'm on my own. I can kind of do what I do. So I kind of won that one. But that was something I remember him getting it on me a lot for, and it being really annoying then, but now obviously I can look back and say, okay, it's good that he realizes, you know, more than me, that I shouldn't be spending all my time doing this. I need to get out and do chores or other stuff like that, experience things. So
yeah,
But it's more about the moderation than
yeah.
the video games themselves. Yeah.
And I wanted them to experience the outdoors and stuff and not have life pass them by in front of a TV too, right? TV
Yeah.
screen.
So Eric, what is the one thing that you remember always getting on him about?
You know, I don't remember getting on him a lot. I'm trying to think. I think I was probably a less patient dad when he was really, really little. And Austin's my first, and no one has a manual on how to be a dad, right? And even if there are manuals out there, most of them will stink because every child's different. Every kid's different. All 3 of mine, none of the punishment worked for each one.
Yeah.
So it had to be a different scenario. And that's just a part of knowing our kids. I'd have to say, you know, in the youth program, I took Austin up to the Boundary Waters 8 different times for a week apiece. And he had been up there by the time he actually got into the high adventure age, because I've been with the young men for over a decade. And by the time he got to be 14 and he was able to go up with them, he was kind of like the right-hand guy, because, you know, I am left-handed. Actually, Aussie's left-handed too.
Yeah.
But meaning though that he had it all down. So, I mean, I never had to worry about him just because he listened to what I'd say. And then, you know, most of those times the consequences, if you don't listen, you deal with the consequences, and dealing with it once or twice like that, you learn pretty easily. So I can't say there's anything that I really feel like I got on him. Maybe the video games, but mostly just to make sure it didn't interrupt his studies. But all of my kids, so I don't know if, you know, my studies, I did everything I could to get out of schoolwork. My mom wouldn't let me drive unless I had a 3.0. And I did more math, figuring out all the things that I could get away with not doing to get that 3.0 than actually just doing studies. And my 3 kids, they all studied way better than me, and they're on a roll and all that stuff. So it was kind of hard for me to, well, it's hard for me to get on them for something like that. So, yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
No, I'm kind of dumb, so
No,
I'll be the first to admit it.
Austin has to work at things. a lot more like I do. I'd say the girls are probably, especially Taylor, our youngest. I mean, she's on the dean's list in college, and I don't know how she does it, but yeah. But for me, I'd take a B student or a C student that just knows how to work, because if you're getting A's all the time and you've never been challenged before, do you know really what work means? So that's been
Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it, Austin. My two boys, like I have my oldest boy, hated school, struggled with school, but he's got like street smarts and figuring stuff out smarts. Like he could take anything, take it apart, put it back together, you know. And my young son is just academically gifted, but man, that guy is dumb as rocks when it comes to like street smarts and like making like good decisions, or like he's just like, I don't know, like street smarts, I don't know about that, but I can get straight A's in college. So they all have everybody's got their skill set. Just because you're academically inclined doesn't make you you know, a good risk taker or a good worker or a good, you know, tinker figuring stuff out. So
and he's graduated, he has his own job now, so he's making his own path.
He's doing it. Well, and the funny thing is, like, when you talked about kind of doing the math to figure out like what was the minimum you could do, like there's a lot of like critical thinking and other stuff, that skills that are going into even that approach to school, right? So
Yes.
it's actually a very intelligent way to do it. Like, right? Like what do I need to do to accomplish my specific goal?
Yep.
What do I not need to do? And that's also a form of intelligence. So it's, yeah.
My mom did not believe that when I was growing up, though. So
I could see that. I could see her being like, come on, you could do better. My son is really intelligent. He's very smart, but he does not do great with school. And there are a lot of reasons why I think that is. I think there are a lot of different reasons why school in particular might be very like a successful place for someone to thrive, or a not successful place for someone to thrive, that actually has nothing to do with intelligence. So.
All right.
Well, high school is different. Like I did not do well in high school. I hated high school, but college was like more up my alley. I mean, I did better in college because it was like, you know, here's the material, you figure out what you're going to learn. There's a midterm and there's a final. And I hated the way high school like would teach, and they would say, here's 50 math problems. Go home, work out all 50 and bring it back tomorrow. And I'm like, this, you might as well just make me write, I hate math 150 times and bring that in the morning, because it's just as grueling. And I hated the way they did stuff in high school. But when I got to college, I excelled. I loved the fact that I could study on my own, figure it out on my own, take the midterm, take the final, and be done with the class.
Well, and
So,
that it's just a lot of time. Oh, go ahead, Terry.
Sorry. I said that for me, in my field, I didn't really have a whole lot of homework. I had a lot of clinicals. So there was like people in front of me that I actually had to work with. So it was totally different than high school. I felt like I was on the job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like active learning makes a huge difference. Like active learning and the kind of, and even now, like even in math or other subjects, like more and more teaching philosophies are pushing active learning because it's so much more effective. It gets people more engaged, like being self-motivated to do projects that interest you and to recognize like how that develops intelligence over time is like a really, I don't know, I think we're leaving the more kind of traditional classroom stuff behind more and more.
Yeah.
I think as time
My
passes.
oldest son was like that. He was like me. He hated high school, didn't do well, but he's doing well in college. He's doing stuff he likes. He loves to tinker. He loves to engineer. He's doing cybersecurity. So he loved his Python programming class. He loved all the tinkering and,
Awesome.
you know, so it was more up his alley than like, oh, let's learn Shakespeare and let's learn how to write in your composition class. And he was like, I hate this stuff.
English and journalism class were horrible for me, and I shouldn't have been in either. Well, they make you take English, right? But I mean, the book report is still something that I dread. If there's a project out there, I need to slice it down, because a book report, I will wait until the last week to even start reading the book. And actually in 5th and 6th grade, I did the book report, 5th, 6th, and 7th grade. I used the same book and the same book report. So
That's funny.
so
Yeah, I'm all about, like, when I teach, I'm all about doing, like, giving students the space to pick projects that are meaningful to them, even if it's something like a book. So it could be like, well, maybe you'll write a book report. Maybe instead you'll write a blog. Maybe you'll go out and find something in the real world that connects to this story that you want to, like, you know, volunteer for, or
Right.
that you want to interview people about, or that you want to, like, where people, or maybe it's you want to create an artwork that demonstrates kind of your understanding of the story. And I feel like when you give people that range, like, some teachers were like, oh, well, then you'll just get lazy students who, like, choose, like, whatever and I was like, no, actually, like, in my experience, I've seen some of the most meaningful projects that way, that people actually put, like, a lot of effort into and a lot of thought into, and they got more out of what they were doing as a student. They got more out of their reading experience than if I told them you have to write a report on this, right? And then for the students who want to write a report, you could say, yeah, write a report. That's great. But I used to do that at BYU all the time, and the stuff that kids came up with was amazing, right? It was amazing.
Yeah.
Is Kevin still on here? Kevin, are you still on? Can you unmute yourself and do your video? We'd like to bring you on.
What?
I think we need to, ask him. Okay.
Yeah.
He is still on.
So I did a
Okay.
research paper for Walter Payton instead of some controversial subject. I got a C- on it. Teacher hated me for it, but I did send that research paper to Walter Payton, and he wrote me back, thanked me for it, gave me a hand-signed 8x10 picture.
Nice.
So there is that.
It pays off.
It does.
I
pay
think
off.
Kevin might be away from keyboard, so.
What about Rebecca? Can we bring Rebecca on?
Oh,
We're going down the
There you
list here.
go.
Chris and Becky.
Oh,
I asked her to unmute.
okay.
She might be away from keyboard.
Maybe.
Oh,
Are
she's
you there?
coming.
Yep.
Becky.
I don't
Here.
know if I've got the chat going, so I'm having a lot of fun with that.
I told them that's what I like doing. I like being in the peanut gallery, just like cracking jokes and stuff. This is not me being on screen.
She's been in
I have
there.
a
She's
face
been
for
our
radio.
little bird. She's been our little
Yeah.
bird telling us all the things about you, Eric.
Oh, has she?
Mm-hmm.
So tell us, Rebecca, what's some
Paybacks.
good childhood dirt you can share on Eric?
I wish I could share a lot of dirt on him, but he was a great brother to grow up with because he helped my self-esteem a lot. Like, probably the number one phrase he would say to me is, "You're so pretty, you're so beautiful, you can do anything." And it was just, I was like, I would do anything for Eric. I think he had me blackmailed pretty well. I'd clean his room, but he shared a lot of stuff with me too. He'd hide pizza under his bed. Pizza was his favorite food growing up. And he would always say I could go in and eat some of his pizza if I wanted. I don't know why we
Oh my
liked it.
goodness.
But I'd clean his room and I did all kinds of things and started his car for him in the morning when he would go to school. But he always took me to school too. Like, he would drop me off at the junior high because I'm 3 years younger than him. And so he would do just amazing. He took me everywhere, which may have been was a good or not a good thing, because I was always hanging out with all these teen boys all the time as a, freshman, senior boys. Anyway, so I have a lot of good memories with Eric. Yeah,
Pay
he
you
was,
his pizza is what you're saying.
yeah, and he, the one thing
Like
I
pizza
do
man.
remember as a child though, he would always do the best pranks against, our neighbors or my older sister or something. And then my little brother and I would get in trouble for it. He was the mastermind behind it. And he had put us to work and then we would get in trouble. So
So many things I would be sued for in today's world.
yes, Eric would be in jail if he were a child.
See, Kevin's on now, so he can join in this discussion. He can talk
Oh,
about,
yeah.
you know,
Sorry,
were
I'm
there-
not the thunderstorm and it keeps knocking out my internet, and so that's what's going on.
no worries. Are there any like particularly memorable pranks that the two of you were like, seriously?
Well, he was always the instigator, and I was like the one who'd go carry it out and get in trouble for it. But one that I remember most is
School
when,
bus.
yeah, the school bus where he had me go and pass out X-Lax, telling people it was gum, and so he basically one of the kids didn't make it to the school, but
Oh,
because it was a long bus.
Oh, man. He probably had a big breakfast that morning too.
I just
I
remember
Ladies.
like I almost feel like I shouldn't laugh, but oh my goodness.
we were about 5 minutes out from the school, and he goes and whispers in the bus driver's ear, and you could just see the look on the bus driver's face, like, "Oh no!" But
My mom
Yeah.
is sighing over here.
he was always thinking of something fun. He was a like I said, a daredevil. I saw him do things that I was just like, "You're not gonna live through that," but he did, and so
Obviously, he's got 9 lives.
yeah, he would play pranks on me. One time, because we lived in Idaho, and it's in the middle of winter. He's like, "We're gonna race down to the bottom of the hill," because we lived on a hill in our underwear, and then see who makes it back up. And so we raced down there through these, snow drifts and that. And I come back up. I don't know how old I was, but he had locked the door, and I was just banging on the door for like 10 minutes before he finally let me in. But he was always playing pranks. I guess that doesn't. He's also a good brother. That's not all he was.
This is the question I have though, Eric. Is the prank playing still continuing? Do we still have pranks going on to this day? Have you,
I will say I think I've mellowed out some, just because. So when I was like an individual contributor at work, I work at a Fortune 500, Fortune 100 company, and before you could get away with a lot of things, zip tying telephone so that when you picked it up, the whole phone would come with you, and stuff like that, and putting ping pong balls in their overhead desks and stuff like that. But later I got into a management or leadership role, and that stuff just like had to disappear. And so that was really difficult for me to so I feel like I've mellowed out on that a lot, just because we live in a different world too. I mean, I'm not proud of a lot of the pranks that I played. But it's a different world as well, to where you need to be very cognitive of who the prank is on. Now, if they can take it and things like that, that's different, but I'm not like I was before, where it could be just random.
right, random like X-Lax gum around the.
That was crazy though. When
Oh
we
my
rode
goodness.
home, the bus was empty besides our family and a couple friends.
Oh,
Did you guys get in trouble for that?
Never got caught. That's the beauty of it. Never got caught on that one.
That's how I work too. I never get caught. I fly under the radar, mostly. Until I directly tell you, do you just do the apple cider vinegar shot?
now I
Yeah.
want to hear some of your best pranks, Terry.
Oh, me? Oh, no, I'm not in the hot seat.
Can you beat? I don't know if anybody can beat X-Lax gum. I don't know if anybody can beat that.
Yeah, I can.
Wow.
Well, thanks, Rebecca. Thanks, Rebecca and Kevin, for coming on and telling us some fun stories. Getting to know Eric a little better.
Yeah, thank you,
Appreciate
Becky.
it.
Kevin.
That's fun.
So, so back to the topic a little bit. We want to open it up for discussion with the audience. Maybe if the audience have any questions for you, and maybe they want to make some comments about what it's like to be a father and being divorced and a father. That's always a interesting topic. And it runs the gamut from all kinds of problems, right? I mean, you have crazy people that try to, take your parental rights away from you, don't let you see your kids. There's all kinds of stories out there. And then there's just the whole, how do you deal with like like you said, 2 Christmases or, you know, or in a sense, 4 Christmases or whatever it might be. You know, how do you handle all that? So if anybody in the audience has any questions or comments or wants to chime in, raise your hand. We usually do like the Shift, Alt, and Y will allow you to raise your hand. So you can go, is it Shift, Alt, or Control, Alt, maybe? No? What is it? Ah, see, now I got to look it up. I think it's
I don't know.
Control, Alt.
Or if you're on a computer, you can go down to the little reactions tab and click raise hand.
True, you can do that too. They must have changed it when they update these things, because
Just like that.
Be working. Yeah, there you go.
And then you can lower your hand after you're done. But yeah, if you go down to the bar underneath and click on reactions, then you can raise your hand.
Interesting. Yeah, so come on if you have any questions. If not, we'll just keep chatting away and telling good stories.
I definitely
Okay,
feel
so-
like one thing that we didn't talk about with this with this topic that you mentioned a lot earlier that kind of struck me, Eric, was the ways in which like you indicated the importance of one, maintaining agency for your kids and maintaining like respect for their mom throughout everything that's been going on. And I think that sometimes that can be really hard for some parents. Like sometimes they let their emotions get in the way or they let other things get in the way. But the ways in which, at least I think from my point of view, like that being such a healthy way to approach, you know, parenting through a divorce. I don't know if you had any thoughts, but it was just something you mentioned that I was like, that's really cool that you are willing to do that.
Well, I was raised that you'll treat your spouse the way you treat your sisters and your mom. And I also believe that your kids see how you treat their mom. And no matter what, I mean, so my ex-wife is a great mom. And I cannot say anything negative about that. So I am blessed that way as far as my kids have a great mom. And so for that, I think it's important to acknowledge that. And let's face it, she doesn't do things that I like sometimes, and I'm sure that I don't do things that she likes in some cases, but there's nothing intentional on my part for sure. And I think your kids see that. But yeah, it's difficult. I don't know how I would deal with some other people's situations to where it's really bitter and angry. And the one thing when I got divorced is I did not want to ever be a deadbeat dad. I've heard deadbeat dads, and I was so active in my kids' life that it has been an adjustment on how to be active in their adult lives and be meaningful to them and still let them choose what they want to do and where they want to go and how they want to live. You know, my not all of my kids are active in the gospel, and that's just fine. I love all 3 of them equally, and their participation in the gospel is not a condition of my love for them, nor my engagement with them. So I think those are important things for me.
Yeah, for sure. I think there's also a healthy way in which like I think it can feel personal when kids make certain kinds of decisions, right? About parent, but really like those decisions generally don't have anything to do with us, right? Of like where they stay or what they do, you know, like it's they're really not usually personal from the kid's perspective. So anyway,
Hopefully.
I think
that's the one I'm dealing with right now. That's one I struggle with. I wish I were better. I wish I were better at that. But my youngest always stays at her mother's home when she's in town, and I don't know why. I can't explain it. It's not like we had a great relationship with her growing up, but that's one where I don't know what to change or do better. Obviously, I need to do something different or better. The other 2, they spent more more time at my house. But something changed here. Yeah, I struggle with that myself.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not an easy thing, right? It's not an easy thing at all, but hang in there. It's a lot of that stuff, at least, and I've noticed this with my parents too, because my parents just divorced, right? And I'm obviously, we're all adults. But it's kind of interesting, like the way in which I make some of those decisions, right? And how a lot of times it doesn't have much to do with my parents as opposed to other factors. But yeah, it's tough to deal with for sure.
I have a little topic change, sorry, but
Sure.
I wanted to share something about Eric. So I went to Boise Bash too, and I walk into my room and there's this note and this feisty little guy on my desk. And I was like, what the heck? And I didn't put two and two together until I realized, wait, in my group, I always say I'm like hugging a cactus. I just don't hug well. And so I get this, and he named it Gus. And let me tell you, Gus is so feisty. He's bit me a couple times when I'm trying to water him, but I still have Gus.
That's awesome. That is one thing about Eric, is he pays attention to a lot of little things and remembers things about people.
Yeah.
And like remembers things that they've said, things that they've liked. I love that story.
And for me, so, wow, Terry's group, that was one of the first ones I was introduced to. And Terry in particular posted a lot of positive, you know, you're not alone and you're going to get through this kind of positive type posts that were just like super helpful for me. When my wife left, I was very depressed. And it was just like that light that was far enough out there that I had something to go towards. And so that was very much appreciated. And yeah, I picked up on that a little and just wanted to thank her for it. There you go.
It was funny. The letter was quite comical, and the more I was reading it, I was like, what? And I literally had no idea who was behind Gus. And then he finally told me. And so McKenna had won this little car. And so my final photo was the car and Gus together saying, on our way home.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love Gus. Does anybody have any questions about any of this? I know we had some new people pop in, so.
Any
Celeste does
questions
clearly,
about
she
otters and
keeps wanting to hack the podcast. So
Yes.
she clearly has something she wants to ask.
well, it was funny because I asked Celeste if she could check to see if she could make the stream work, if she has permission, because I didn't have permission to stream it on live. And so I think she's playing around with it, and she must be hitting the share screen or something by accident. But
That's really funny.
so we're seeing her logging into Facebook.
It's all right. I'm writing down all the information for later.
Yeah, we saw your password, Celeste. You're in trouble. Well, so we got about 10 minutes left, and then we're gonna do open it up for the after party. But I kind of wanted to ask you, Eric, like, you know, this is a kind of a flameless kind of a singles group, and kind of wanted to ask you, like, what is it you're looking for? Like, what kind of person are you looking to have a relationship with, maybe marry, you know, somebody with kids, without kids, somebody more your age? Like, you know, what are you thinking? Are you open to anything?
You know, I'm not putting like barriers on things like that. I will say I want to find someone that is kind. I want to find someone that is compassionate and is able to express themselves to others with compassion. I think that is an important part of my life that I feel like I need in my life. Obviously, you have heard my background and what kind of a person that would probably put up with with me, like being adventurous. So I think that part is important. And I will say, I think I just saw something there. I want someone, so this sounds horrible, but I will probably, I will ask my sisters if I meet someone what they think of her, just because it is important to me that they get along with my family. I do not want to be segregated from my family through a marriage. I think families should grow and not divide.
There you go. I like it. I like it. So, well, I mean, I really hope for the best. I hope this podcast shed a little light out there for people out there that were curious about Eric Butler, to see who you are. You ladies out there, I mean, he seems like a great guy. He seems like a great catch. You know, send him a direct message. Don't do a friend request, because those are confusing. Go in there, send him a direct message, tell him you like the podcast, tell him what you think, and, you know, strike up a conversation. If the DM goes well, then do a friend request. But you know, that's just my advice to the ladies. Like, I know it's so easy to just hit that friend request, but, you know, open up and have a discussion. And but I think Eric's a great guy. You're a great guy, Eric. You seem like you're a great father. I wish there were a lot of fathers out there like you. So on this Father's Day, I want you to know that, you know, we really appreciate you. We appreciate all you've done for your family. Seems like you raised some great kids. They love you. They think you're a great father.
I do have some amazing kids, for sure. And I don't know how that happened, but I'm surrounded by great people, both my kids as well as my siblings and my parents. So.
Well, good. So I think on that note, we'll start getting ready for the after party. And then we'll have, like, you know, free flow of conversation afterwards when we're not recorded, and I will stop the recording. And let's see, stop recording.